So this is another stuff I own, and in this case we have Commander Kruge from Star Trek 3, which in my opinion I think is a vastly underrated Star Trek. I would say Star Trek 2 is the best, but I would put Star Trek 3 as my second favorite of all the films, followed by probably Star Trek 6. So Commander Kruge was played by Christopher Lloyd, which was a somewhat inspired choice because Christopher Lloyd was traditionally known as a comedic actor, kind of like with Michael Keaton playing Batman. So it's hard to see Christopher Lloyd under the prosthetic, but his voice is unmistakable. It's funny because I did a a video on this figure for my other channel, which is more focused on figures, and I distinctly remember Christopher Lloyd passing away last year in 2024, and so I did a little research on when he died, and he's not dead. He's still alive. I believe he's 85, but he's still alive. So I don't know what I was thinking, but I'm glad to see he's still with us. The film came out in 1984, and so this was prior to his breakout hit, which was Back to the Future, where he was Doc Brown, and that was 1985. So this figure, it's from EXO-6. It is the last Star Trek figure I have, but not the last Star Trek figure I plan to own. I actually have two more on pre-order. And this was by far the most expensive. This one was about $300. And so it's pretty elaborate. The costume is quite a bit more elaborate than the other Star Trek costumes. I don't know that it's $100 more. I mean, the other figures were like 200 or less. So I'm not sure that this costume really merits that kind of price increase. But they were really, EXO-6 was really pleased with the result here. And that is one of the very few figures I have with realistic looking hair instead of just molded plastic. So it is, you see how that is. I think I only have one other figure, 1/6 figure with realistic hair, but it is a really, really nice interpretation, and it is very, very screen accurate. This is one of those figures where I think that if you had it somewhere where it was a realistic looking background, you might think that this was a still shot. In fact, a lot of the promotional pics, when they would show this, you couldn't tell that it was a figure and not from the movie. The ankles have absolutely no articulation because of those boots, so that's a little disappointing. He definitely needs the brace, although he's just kind of leaning back on it. It's all plastic. There's no metal on it, even though some parts may look metal. But this is, you got some fuzzy parts in here. You got some plasticky parts. So I love the usage of different materials. You've got a necklace in there, and we'll focus in on the face. The only thing I would say, and I'm not really blaming them, but the eyebrows are just kind of solid pieces, whereas in the film they look quite a bit different because their hair is sticking out. So this was kind of the evolution of the Klingons. The Klingons in the original series looked pretty human, whereas now we're getting more elaborate here, and that would continue on as they would become more and more distinct and less human looking. But it's a nice figure. I definitely don't regret getting this one. And one of my favorite characters from Star Trek. I think the thing that puts this one below Star Trek 2 for me is the fact that Star Trek 2 is one of the very few I would consider like a perfect film. In other words, I wouldn't change anything in it. There are things in Star Trek 3. I think it's got some of the highest high points, particularly with the destruction of the Enterprise. But there are parts in there where the film drags a bit. So that's why I would say Star Trek 2 is a superior film, but I think that this one is a fantastic film. And it's got, again, different usage of all sorts of fabrics and materials, and it's really nice. So that is Commander Kruge by EXO-6 from Star Trek. The Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock.